Welcome to MyCTO Friend the Podcast, where founders come to learn how to manage a tech startup. This is Mitchie and I'm with Amaury Khalifi. Hi, Amaury.
Hi, Mitchie, and welcome startuppers to today's podcast. In this episode, we are talking about how to make your project even more innovative. You are going to learn how to act as an innovator, making the most out of technologies, web marketing techniques, and even creating new business opportunities.
Now remember that for this first series of the podcast, we are working our way down Amaury's book. So we're going through the tips and real startup experiences he's gathered throughout the years. If you're a founder without technical background, listen up because you're in the right place. Let's go ahead and get started, Amaury. Today we are covering something called innovation, and this is a big thing in the startup environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We touched for a bit in this topic during the episode 3, if I remember, when we were talking about what startup wants and what they need. And one of the role of a CTO is to be an innovator and injecting answers, technical opportunities, as well as businesses opportunities, etc. And this is everything that we're going to cover in today's podcast.
Wonderful. So there is something that we need to address when we're talking about traditional professions. We have a clear set of expectations. If you're an architect, if you're an engineer, you have this clear set of expectations. But for an innovator, it's just so big. You have so many things to do. You change industry, you change product each time that you're getting into a new startup project as a CTO, right? So when we're taking over for a CTO in an innovator role, what do you begin with? What do you do first?
Well, I really realized that I became a CTO after working with more than 100 startups. Before that, I was building processes. I even created courses like that last year on how to brainstorm ideas, etc. And I didn't really realize that I was creating this innovation process. And the process I often lead my clients to and people and startups I coach is to brainstorm, of course, on the business model of their own, I would say, box. But next is to think out of the box. And in order to think out of the box is to force yourself to integrate things that have maybe not really any common interest with your business. And that's where we can inject maybe technologies in your business model. We can inject web marketing techniques because these days, if you want to build a business, you do need to know how to get clients, and etc., etc.
Right. Now, we start with the brainstorming techniques. We go through the process that we need to go through to identify other opportunities, other projects that seemingly don't have much to do with ours. Let's talk about some of the resources that these people can use, the founders that they want to look at other projects, for example. You mentioned the resource TechCrunch, right?
Yeah, in order to become yourself an innovator, you just need to analyze 3 things on other startups. The 3 things are injecting technologies, how you can force yourself to use some technologies, the growth hacking techniques and the web marketing. In other words, how startups that works and that skyrocket do to get new clients on daily or on weekly basis. And what are the innovation behind their business model? What's new in the way they provide values? And in order to get to know that 3 categories of innovation, of course, looking at the news, the tech news, like TechCrunch is, I think, one of the biggest tech news in the world. Product Hunt is great as well because you see new startups on a daily basis. And that's exactly the way that you can makes your project, I would say, in a more sexy in some way by adding more innovation technologies, and you will be more attractive. You're going to be more attractive for incubators, accelerators, subsidies, etc., investors as well, because they will see not only the potential of the business that you are creating today, but maybe the potential of your business in 1, 2, or 5 years, and hopefully for them, being able to envision you as maybe a monopoly someday.
Right. So let's jump right in, I think. Let's talk about injecting new technologies. What process would you advise people to follow when they're doing this?
Well, the first things I like to start is to analyze what information you have in your database. What are the information of your clients? What are their data? What they are doing? I mean, are you tracking where they are going on with the GPS features? Are you getting some personal information like their daily tasks, etc., etc.? It can be biased. You need to pay attention to respect the client's privacy. But this type of information, without really using them in a nominative way, you can build an algorithm that can maybe down the road help your artificial intelligence, if I can put it this, to create prediction. And what prediction the data, that's basically the question, what prediction the data you have in your database can enable you to have.
Right. So your AI would be able to extrapolate the data that you already have and turn it into predictions and possible needs, possible wants in the future?
Absolutely. It's all about creating value out of the data that you have, because, okay, you have your first business model. That's a good start. But maybe if we talk about, as example, personal development, you might be able to anticipate, depending on today's needs, what will be the needs of this person in 1 year, in 5 years. And if you already have other people with the same needs back a few years ago, maybe you're going to connect them and you will have a relation between a student and a coach, as example.
Exactly. Wonderful. So you're even creating new business opportunities just talking about the technologies.
That's the beauty of the thing. It's just to create value, and value create new business opportunities.
Of course. Wonderful. Now, that's with AI, and we're mentioning data, but there's not just data when talking about AI, right?
Yeah. What provides the most data these days are IoT. All these connected devices, the Internet of Things, can provide us a lot of data. Like, it can be the weather, it can be information about a container, it can be everything, images taken through a webcam, etc. Even on the top of a mountain with the sun electricity, you can manage everything. And all this information. So first off, in the process, just force yourself to imagine your project with an IoT device, maybe with a webcam, with a detector, a light detector. It can be everything, and under every format, with a screen, without screen, it can be like with Alexa, etc. And when you have that information, you can come back to using AI and using image recognition if you take pictures or if you have videos, or you can use NLP, the natural language processing, to listen what people say and maybe answer to their question, or providing services like Amazon do, and services just out loud, or like Siri and etc. That's the thing, is that data is the starting point of any other services that you can build over different communication channel between a software or a device and a human.
Wonderful. So recognize the data that you already have and the data that you are going to recollect throughout the years. Try to get more data through IoT devices if that's possible, and use AI to analyze said data, right?
Yeah, and you don't need IoT devices to gather data. Just smartphones provide a tremendous amount of data. If you connect social media, Facebook, etc., you can already have a lot of data.
Wonderful. Okay, now let's talk about some other technologies. There are different options, right? We have blockchain, we have augmented reality, we have virtual reality. These same principles apply to them as well?
Yes, these are all game changing. And that's some game changer, I mean. Blockchain will allow any startups to fix an information and to keep it during the years, and without being able to. Yeah, it's a proof. And maybe tomorrow banks will not be. Will not even be required anymore. Because blockchain and the computer and the internet can become the future bank in some way. Virtual reality, it's the same thing. That's game changer, because you can put a headset and imagine yourself everywhere. we saw the success for us of Pokemon Go as example, and it was just, even if it's not very useful, that's the sign that there are a lot of new innovation to come in this area. So force yourself, again, the process is the same. Force yourself with your current project, force yourself to see how your business model will be able to use these type of technologies and how you can create value for you and consequently to your clients as well.
Remember, every project is different. So the way you would use virtual reality would be completely different from your neighbors. So go ahead and get into that mental space to identify how you can, let's say, integrate this into your project. Now, something that we could do as well, you mentioned, is using the value proposition canvas to identify at what point we can add an IoT device or we can add some sort of AI, some sort of technology, right?
Yeah, it's all about creating value either for you, for your clients, for your partners, for your bank, for everyone. So the value proposition canvas is very simple, and there is a right side of the template who describe what are the jobs to be done by your clients, what are their pain and the gain they are looking for. And you can dissect that and not only seeing the big picture of these tasks that you want to help them, but dividing this in subtasks and again subtasks, and until you get a very tiny small thing. And maybe the first step for you will be to help them to achieve this small thing and then growing on other things until you are able to help them accomplish the entire tasks.
That's right. And we did touch on the value proposition canvas on a previous episode of the podcast, episode 5, Know Your Customer, if you'd like to hear that, if you haven't already. And we are going to talk a little bit more about how to break down your task on the next version of the next section, of this episode, talking about the business model. But for now, let's just go ahead and touch on growth hacking and web marketing.
Well, that's some very trendy words. The growth hacking is how you can use tech tips and tricks to be able to target your customers and to reach them. We often talk about scrapping and using social media in a kind of a banded way. There are also thousands of web marketing techniques, and sometimes it's not that complex. And there is something that a basic that everyone should have in mind. It is this. If you want to build a business, you need to be known, trusted, and liked. I mean, if people know you, that's the basic of a funnel. It's to build an awareness. So they need to know you first, then you develop interests and then considerations. And then down the road, they are going to evaluate if yes or no, you are the right fit for helping them to reach their goals. And it's going to end up, hopefully, to a purchase.
Now, there is a little quote that you gave me. It's a pearl. I loved it. That you said, "I hate wasting my time. So do startup founders, and so do their customers." So this is pretty much what growth hacking and web marketing is all about, right? You're not wasting your time promoting your product to people that may not get it. And you're not wasting the time of the customers that are simply not the right target audience for your product, right?
Yeah, the basics is the funnel, the marketing funnel is quite simple. Is that until these days, we were doing a bit of marketing and a lot of sales. I mean, as soon as people were connecting to our brands, we were getting them on phone and speaking to them, convincing them, talking again 2, 3, 4, 5 times, etc., etc. A startup, if we want to build a scalable business, we need to automate that. And people all have that in mind for sure. They think, okay, I'm going to create videos, I'm going to create blogs, etc., etc., and then people will come and buy my stuff. It's not always that easy. What you need to do is to go through the manual steps. You are not going to be profitable on the beginning, and that's fine. You still go on the manual steps of being able to create sales meetings, be able to talk to people, identify why are they are buying and why others not. And then you will create the perfect client, identify what is the perfect client that just bought your stuff right away, and you will just have to pick other client exactly like this person, maybe exactly the same age, maybe exactly the same hobby or the same mindset, etc., etc. And instead of just trying to sell to your entire city, which would not make sense at all, just try to sell to the entire world, but just pick one person from each city. I was comparing myself the other day to this because I was talking to a member of my family, and I say, okay, there is over the city where I am living in, there is, I think, between 1 to 3% that can become my customer. So why would I just put a billboard or try to put an ad in my city if there is only one person over 10,000 people that can buy my stuff? No, that doesn't make sense. You just attract people that fits to what you want, and you target them on the web, thanks to social media, thanks to inbound marketing, thanks to YouTube. If you communicate in a very, very niche way, people will find you and come to you, and then you will have that process that goes and that's going to help you to just make your sales.
Perfect. And like you mentioned before, with social media, try to use the technologies and the tools that they already provide, like hashtags on LinkedIn and Twitter, using, the ads on Facebook, Pixel, everything that the tool itself, that the social media itself is going to be able to provide to you as someone that wants to do marketing in the web, right?
Yeah, the semantic approach is the best approach for using social media as well as for growth hacking. You are going to target people thanks to one word. Maybe if they post one day this hashtag, or one day they did this type of interaction, or they just liked a post that was talking about your topic, or a post from your competitors, or a post that just buzz. And instead of spending hours or days or months trying to make the buzz yourself, you know what? Just pick people on someone else's buzz. You just see who likes this post. You just connect with them and talk to them. And that's a very, very easy way just to connect to your people and to target them.
Ride the wave, as they say. If you have other posts, other things that are creating a wave, write it and make the most out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all the social media works the same way. Hashtags, keywords, that's the way you can take the most out of it. And you can also, once you redirect people to your website or to your content or to your Facebook page, obviously you are going to use what we call the retargeting. And retargeting will enable you not only to show maybe ads to this type of person later, but also to build a typology of customers or prospects, and enable you to ask to Facebook to bring you more clients with the same common interests.
Exactly. Perfect. So Facebook would be creating an audience for you.
Yeah, you are going to start with your own audience, and you can ask to Facebook to grow your audience by creating ads and attract people that have the similar pattern.
Perfect. So you would just need to provide the base. Wonderful. Now, let's touch on business model, because this is something that a lot of people may glance over and not pay as much attention as they should. But going over the business model and finding a more innovative, a more optimized way of making up your startup, right? Could be the make it or break it for innovation, right?
Yeah, that's very funny, because I am a CTO, and I was coding and scripting and managing servers just a few years ago, and I still do this type of things time to time. And now I see that the value that I provide, where I provide the most impact, is on the business side of things. Why? Because I have that roots. I have the foundation of knowing how to build things, and I can identify and prioritize few small opportunities, and I mean business opportunities, because I already know what is the easiest to get done. And And when you have a startup, basically, we talked about the vision in the previous episode. You have this purpose, why you are here, why you are building this project, why you are building this startup. And behind that purpose, like let's assume that as example, you want to make help people to travel more. Instead of helping everyone to travel more, which might be the wrong path to take on, you just start with the small things. Just pick one city, like let's assume Marseille as an example, and you want to make people travel to Barcelona. That's just a very small chunk where you can find your first niche. And maybe that's not even small enough. So instead of selling the entire travel from Marseille to Barcelona, maybe you can get specialized in just selling and providing transportation between Marseille and Barcelona. And maybe you cannot afford to buy a bus. If you cannot afford to buy a bus, just get someone else's company and you're going to sell tickets from them and you're going to get some fees. That's another way to build business. And maybe by starting dissect this in the process, you can come back to something else. You sell tickets from Marseille to Barcelona, but eventually people will ask you more information on Barcelona and get to know if it is better to travel or to visit this side of the city or the other side. And you will build the first guide for your travelers. And then this guide will become maybe another things like a mobile application, maybe with feedbacks of clients, maybe with injecting technologies. You're going to add virtual reality to make people choose between the left side of Barcelona, the right side. And then later you are going to add more cities and people will travel thanks to your application and see any type of cities in the world. And at the end, your business will have nothing in common to the first one instead of just the purpose. The purpose was to make people travel. You can make people travel through virtual reality and making them visit 10, 20 countries before picking the right one for them, instead of just sending them in a destination that might not be a good fit for them.
That's right. That's a really good example. There's so many steps that you could take to get to that final vision, to that final idea that you had. But if you take small steps, you're going to find opportunities along the way. And you're going to find little paths. Just like walking around Barcelona, you're going to find different paths that you might want to take. And that's a little bit more interesting, or that is a little bit more like me. And your business could take a whole different path, a whole different way. You could end up with something completely different, but that's good and that's better for you. The business opportunities in the startup environment are the ones that have holes in them, the ones that need to be explored. And starting small and starting with small versions of your business model, those are the ones that are going to give you that opportunity, that growth, that space for growth, and to get into those little niches and to get into those little spaces that are not filled up yet.
Absolutely. And that's what can also lead you to pivots, as example. You can move from one business model to another, or just maybe the first business model was not enough to be profitable. And you might think of another business model thanks to all the opportunities you have on the beginning. So more you analyze things around you, more you will be able to focus on what is important. And I often remind my clients that building a startup is all about switching from seeking opportunities and just focusing, which means also not listening opportunities. So you focus, and when you have some opportunities, you just note them on a post-it on the side or on some Evernote note, whatever, and you come back to it later and you keep your focus on one thing. You achieve this in a few months, then you open the opportunities. You say, okay, what have we done right, wrong? What can we do differently next time, etc., etc.
Wonderful. Amaury, is there anything else you would like to cover in this topic?
No, I think we went fast on a very, very deep content. There are so many things that we could share, but yeah, for today, I think it's enough. So an innovator role is all about bringing new clients to your company And you can attract them thanks to technologies by adding more values to the end product or to the service that you're providing. And you can use so many technologies. You can also use web marketing techniques, growth hackings, and it's just not always techie things. It might be just a way of using a social media in some way or searching in another way that can help you to identify what are the right people for you. And finally, building smallest business will be your best help in order to achieve your vision, because instead of waiting 1 year to reach your goals, maybe you can start tomorrow selling small tickets and then later having something bigger and bigger and bigger that is going to grow from there.
That's right. Just using that first step is stepping stone, put it in the ground and building from there. Wonderful. This was a very interesting conversation. Thank you very much,
Mitchie.
Amaury.
Thank you, Mitchie.
So let's just go ahead and talk about our resources. If you want to go ahead and look at the links and notes for today's episode, you can do that in where, Amaury?
In MyCTOfriend.co/8 as example, number of the episode. Already 8 episodes, great.
Yes, we're fast. We're doing it. You can also look at other content on MyCTOfriend.co. We have a lot of tech management content out there, blog post, video advice, whatever you need.
One video
courses.
every week. Yeah, one video every week, courses, etc.
Wonderful. And what about the book?
Yeah, we are working on the book, and we already covered the 5th chapter together. And if you want to pre-order the book, you can get a printed copy on startupwithoutcto.com. And if you order it now, you will get a digital version 2 months before the official launch. And you just need to get on on startupwithoutcto.com.
That's right. MyCTOfriend.co. That's for the tech management startup.
Yes.
But just visit all of them. They have so many good things. I mean, just go ahead.
If we are here today anyways, it's just like because we want to help people, and that's what we do the best. And I think podcast is the new way that has a good fit for it, because we save you time. We were talking about saving time. That's what we are doing. Maybe you are driving, you are running, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You are learning.
Exactly. And you're doing it while saving time. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Now,
Thank you, Mitchie.
talking about podcasts, very quick. We do have our next topic for episode 9.
Yeah, because we brainstorm. We brainstormed today. We saw the way to create new opportunities, new business opportunities. And maybe out of this process, if you do it right, you might have a wall full of post-its. So the goal will be to prioritize. And that's what we're going to tackle next time, the roadmap definition process.
That's right, roadmap definition. Now, you've tackled this in a few courses and you've tackled this in a few videos. It's a big topic, but a very exciting one. But this is exactly just planning out what you're going to do from now on. So listeners, startup founders out there, if you're listening, I hope to hear you on the next episode, roadmap definition. And also, if you want to leave a comment or something, let's say a suggestion for a topic, you can do so in myctofriend.co/podcast.
As well as on iTunes, of course. We will be glad to have your feedbacks on iTunes.
Exactly. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for listening today. Thank you, Amaury, for a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Mitchie.
And until next time.
Bye-bye.